So Silicon Catalyst is an incubator and accelerator. We are headquartered in Silicon Valley, and we are incubating startups all around the world. Today, as I will show you later on a map, every place but China is incubated from here, sometimes with local resources. China, we have a joint venture in Chengdu where we incubate companies that are startups in China. If we look at where things were back in 2015, there was a greatly reduced investment by venture capitalists in semiconductor companies. In fact, the numbers are much worse than are shown on the chart on the right, because these were amounts that were still being put into companies where the venture capitalists and the corporate venture capitalists said, okay, we have these companies going, so we need to keep them alive. But in terms of new companies, the number was very, very low. In parallel, there was a tremendous consolidation in the semiconductor industry. I recall that back in 2005, when I joined the board of directors of XR, we could acquire around 50 companies, all had approximately $100 million in revenue. And today, all 50 companies and XR have been acquired. I was at NXP when we acquired Freescale, making it a large semiconductor company. And we have seen that across the board with Broadcom, being acquired by Avago and so forth. So tremendous consolidation. These companies have become very CFO driven, and the amount of R&D spent has been reduced, even at companies like Qualcomm. And finally, there were many companies that for many years invested in science projects. And I would say that today, after these acquisitions and mergers, these science projects have been harvested. And so that was an innovation that was available for a while based on previous investments, and that is no longer available. So against this backdrop, these three gentlemen, Rick Lazansky, our founder and chairman, Dan Armbruster and Mike Noonan, founded Silicon Catalyst. Rick is a serial entrepreneur, having done 15 startups, several of them very successfully. He's been an investor. He's been the president of Sandhill Angels, and he's participated in multiple incubators. Dan used to run all of the IBM 12-inch wafer business, and then was president of Semitech. And Mike was head of sales for National Semiconductor, and then head of sales for NXP Semiconductor, and then head of sales for Global Foundries. He's been an executive at Rambus, and now he's the CEO of a startup on the East Coast. So Dan is still active on our board. Mike is a friend of the company, but he's not currently active. So these gentlemen started Silicon Catalyst back April 15th with a big party at Avaya Stadium. So Avaya Stadium was the soccer stadium in San Jose, and the first event held at Avaya was a nice party for 700 people with Silicon Catalyst launching. Okay, and yes, we like parties at Silicon Catalyst. So where are chips today? Chips are roaring back. There are a lot of exciting things going on in AI and transportation, 5G, et cetera. It's a very exciting time to be in the semiconductor industry. So Silicon Catalyst is the only incubator in the world that is 100% focused on accelerating semiconductor solutions. This includes MEMS, this includes intellectual property, this includes silicon and other semiconductor. And what we're looking for is solutions. What do I mean by solutions? I mean the chip plus software, the chip plus a system, the chip plus a sensor. We are not looking for jelly bean, easy stuff. We're looking for real solutions that solve a real pain point in the world. Okay, so getting a little technical. If you want to start a chip company, what are the things that you struggle with? So we did a survey of a lot of entrepreneurs before starting Silicon Catalyst, and basically the top things were EDA tools. You have to be able to design the chip. Prototyping tools, you have to be able to make it into silicon so that you have a prototype that you can demonstrate what you're doing. Testing, both in the lab and for production, and money. Money to pay people, money to have an office, money to be able to afford these things. All of these things take time. And these are the struggles of a semiconductor startup, which are much more significant than software startups. With a software startup, with a PC and a C compiler, you can create a prototype. This is very difficult to do in semiconductors. So this is where Silicon Catalyst comes in. So Our value proposition is that we provide the goods and services for these startups to be able to build their prototype. We also provide a super advisor from our team that not only has access to their network and their experience, but has access to our team and our entire advisor network. We provide an ecosystem, which I'll talk about in subsequent slides in more details, to advisors, to investors, to universities, to industry organizations, and to money. We also provide space, but frankly, the majority of incubators in the world are about space, coffee, Wi-Fi. Senior semiconductor entrepreneurs don't care about that. They pretty much want to work from home. They may have one person here, one person in Korea, one person here, one person in Japan, one person in Canada, and they want to work from home. They don't want to commute. They're very experienced. What they need is the tools to get the job done. We do offer office space and conference rooms. It's very seldom used, unlike incubators full of young software people. And then finally, we have a lot of marketing, a lot of events, and they benefit from these events. Okay, so in a nutshell, our value proposition is it's very hard to raise money with just PowerPoint, okay? And then to go spend it on all of these things like EDA, IP, shuttles for silicon, etc. Silicon Catalyst provides most of these for close to free. So with a little bit of money, the entrepreneur can leverage a government grant or friends and family, some seed capital, maybe some non-recurring engineering from a major company like Samsung, maybe leverage university R&D and get to a prototype. So now they can raise money with a real solution in hand, which makes it that much more easy. So we save time, we save money, we leave more equity in the hands of the entrepreneur. And finally, our business model is that we take common equity in exchange for incubation. Now, we selected common equity versus preferred because we want to be viewed as in the same boat as the entrepreneur, as a partner to the entrepreneur, not as an investor. Okay, so let's talk about the ecosystem that we have created. It's a very powerful ecosystem. In the middle is our team, which I'll talk about later, and the startup companies surrounded by these 4 hubs. So first, we have 7 strategic partners today. Our first partner was Texas Instruments, followed by On Semiconductor, later followed by Soitec and Bosch, and then it was followed by Cirrus, and then this year we've added ARM and ST Micro. So these strategic partners, they provide funding for our operations. They participate in all of our events. They get to help select the companies. They get to look at the raw pipeline of companies, and then they participate in the diligence and the selection process. We also have a great number of advisors. This is world-class. Our advisors include gentlemen that have been, CEOs of large corporations, like Rich Redhouse, who took Atheros public until it was acquired by Broadcom years later. Wally Rines, who was chairman and CEO of Mentor Graphics. We probably have 25 to 30 that are considered industry luminary in the advisor group. The junior folks in the advisor group are probably, 20 years experience, director level positions at companies like Samsung, Maxim, TI, etc. It says 250 for investors. I think we're well over 300 now. We need to update this chart. This includes individuals from venture capital, large venture capital like Eclipse Ventures, like Arteman, like NEA, like Venrock, Walden, etc. It also includes corporate ventures, so like Samsung Ventures, but clearly Intel Capital, Hynix Ventures, Maxim Ventures, etc. Qualcomm Ventures. It also includes many angel groups like Sandhill Angels, J Angels, Band of Angels, and individual investors. These are people that attend our meetings, take meetings with our startups, put money into our startups, are willing to put money into hardware and specifically into silicon. Okay. And then arguably the most important part of our ecosystem is our in-kind partners. I highlight a few of our key partners here, but I will talk about them separately on a separate slide. We believe that this ecosystem is good for everyone, for the companies, the startups, for our partners, for the investors, and for the entire industry. In the last 2 years, we've been adding to this ecosystem We launched our joint venture in Chengdu, China 1.5 years ago. We now have local support in Israel. We work with industry organizations like the Global Semiconductor Alliance and the Semi Group. To a great extent, they treat us as their startup arm. We work with over 20 universities around the world. Clearly, we started with the local major universities with Stanford and UC Berkeley, and we work with other accelerators. Finally, last July, we launched an angel group out of this ecosystem so that people could participate in silicon and not just in software. And in its first year, the group has already made 5 investments in our startups, and we're very happy to report that. It's exceeded my expectations for success. So if there's someone at Samsung that would like to join our angel group, if you're an accredited investor, if you want to look at only semiconductors, then we've set a very low bar for fees and investments. So it's actually a wonderful opportunity. You can reach out to me later, and I will make the introduction to the angel group, which is now a separate organization. Okay, let's talk a little bit about strategic partners. As I mentioned, they get early and strategic access to if we count China, well over 400 companies that have applied to Silicon Catalyst. Okay, so what is an in-kind partner? An in-kind partner are leading companies that have provided hundreds of millions of dollars of free and reduced, highly discounted goods and services to our company. We prefer free, but not everyone can do free. So if they cannot do free, then we ask for the best discounts I've ever given and very friendly payment terms for our startups. So who are these companies? So you can see that we have the world's #1 foundry is our partner. So TSMC provides free shuttle runs in any production technology nodes. So today that includes 7 nanometers to all of our startups. So our startups can make their dreams come true by building their silicon with TSMC. Synopsys provides free software for the design, implementation, tape out, including some IP of any of the designs, whether it's RF or analog, especially digital, for 2 years for free. So it gives the entrepreneurs 2 years to complete their chip and then go build the silicon at TSMC. But you can see that all of our partners, Advantis for production test, Keysight for lab testing, for RF and microwave and system level software, MathWorks, ARM is clearly the #1 IP company in the world. So you can see that every one of our partners is tier 1. We've added to our EDA offerings with significant, recently with Mentor. Mentor also provides unique solutions for MEMS, for photonics, for system, for board level. We've added photonics, we've added MEMS, we've added back-end testing, we've added custom packaging, a lot of intellectual property. And then we started adding business solutions. So we have legal, we have patent, we have general software, we have financial. So our companies can get several $1 million worth of free and highly discounted goods and services through this network. There's 2 more partners that we've added, and they will be announced this month, and then we'll put them on their slide. We'll be up to 35 around the world. So this is our in-kind partner network, very powerful part of our ecosystem. So here's how we group them by design, intellectual property, etc. Okay, and so how does the process work? Let's say we source companies regularly. There's a couple times a year that we meet to decide and select, but we look at companies all the time. In fact, I spoke with a new startup yesterday, and almost everyone on our team talks to at least one new startup every week. That's how we've spoken with well over 400 companies in the last 5 years, all around the world. The most common source of new startups is serial entrepreneurs. But clearly, we've spun 6 or 7 companies out of universities. We spun 1 company out of industry. So we go through a very detailed multiple week screening process. It is at least 10 times more than what your typical leading incubator does. We have participated in the selection of companies at Alchemist, at Skydeck, at other places that are considered top 10, at Y Combinator, considered the best in the world. And what we do is at least 10 times more than what they do in terms of the thoroughness of the review of these startups. Consequently, we select a little less than 10%. We have looked at well over 300 companies, and we've selected 31 in the US incubator and 12 in the China incubator. We incubate these companies for a minimum of 2 years, where we add all of the pieces of the ecosystem, but we also add training and a curriculum to these companies. And then clearly, as they exit the incubator, they are in a stronger position. And we'll have some of these details in subsequent slides. Okay. Again, this is a factual presentation of what we do. If it sounds that I'm excited about it, it's for two reasons. One, I am very excited about helping entrepreneurs. And two, I just had a double espresso, so I have a lot of energy. Last year, we did 31 events around the world. This year, our plan was to do 36. As a result of COVID-19, we will probably do 18, and 2/3 of those will be online. But we are having good success with our online meetings. If any of you want to be added to our mailing list and our event list, please let me know. And all of our meetings, including our face-to-face meetings, are free. We do not charge for attendance to our meetings. And yes, we do provide food and wine, but that's not our model. We don't charge for our meetings. Here's an example of a screening meeting on the left, which is a smaller venue. Here's an example of our marquee meeting, which is our twice a year biannual portfolio company update. Some other incubators call it the demo day. This one was held in November at TSMC. We had 150 attendees, and it is who's who in Silicon Valley. We had an executive from Samsung, but we had a chairman of Xilinx, CTO of Maxim, heads of strategy at Infineon and NXP. So very, very well attended meeting with who's who in the semiconductor industry. We just did this meeting online last week. We had to do it online. We used Zoom, and we broke it. We reduced it from 5.5 hours to 4 hours, and we broke it over 2 days. So we had two 2-hour sessions, and we had well over 200 attendees for both days. So it went, considering it was online, it went very, very well. But I did miss drinking wine with my friends. So, and here's just an example of who attends these meetings. We stopped keeping track about 2 years ago, at least for the slide purposes. But basically, it's well attended with systems companies, semiconductor companies from around the world. Okay. We also launched, as part of our meetings, an industry forum. And this is an event where it's really for thought leadership and how can the industry do good things around the world. Okay. And so this is not about Silicon Catalyst. This is not about our startups. This is about thought leadership and, again, how we can improve the world. And we've had some amazing panels. Silicon Valley Bank is our partner. They host the event, and we've had 4 of these have been very well received. We look forward to, after COVID, returning to doing this. Okay, here's the companies that are currently in incubation, and you can see that we go from RF to millimeter wave to IP to power to AI, and AI for different reasons to sensors. So we are not focused in one area. We are focused on good technology, good teams with a strong value proposition. Here's an example of our alumni. I'm very happy to report that we've had a couple of acquisitions, but our first alumni, our labs, is now entering Series B. They're raising money at close to $200 million pre-money valuation. They have investment from Intel. They have investment from Global Foundries. They have investment from leading venture capitalists in Silicon Valley, Playground Ventures, and a couple of others. Aponix was our second graduate, and they are starting production. They're using one of our partners, leading MEMS foundry, and I believe they're shipping to a tier 1 customer in the telco space, their GPON2 solution using photonics and MEMS. They've also raised decent money. IRA raised about 24 million in 2018, and now are looking for a Series B raise at a very high valuation. So our companies have started small, grown, gotten very far, we are now looking to start getting regular exits in the next few years, successful exits. Here's a map of where have we received applications. So you can see that we've received applications from pretty much everywhere except Australia. We have had companies in Singapore, Taiwan, Korea, South Africa, all over Europe, of course, Israel, of course, our joint venture in Chengdu, China. And I would say about 45% of our companies are in Silicon Valley. You can see that we're all over the US, from Southern California to Santa Barbara to Austin to New York, DC, Boston, and we've had a lot of success in Canada too. So Silicon Catalyst was launched in 2015. We've made great progress. We launched a joint venture in China at the end of 2018. We added Israel with local support in 2019. And now we are exploring expansion to India and Europe. And frankly, we probably would have done that already, but with COVID, we have been delayed. But overall, we're still doing very well in spite of COVID. So this is the international picture. Here's a quick highlight of some of the companies in China. A little bit on the Angels, a separate organization. Again, if any of you are an accredited investor and wish to join, it's an exciting and a fun group with quarterly meetings, and every meeting there's somebody from the industry that comes and talks about something interesting. Of course, these meetings today are on Zoom. Here's the US team. These are my partners. As you can see, very experienced group, very experienced board of directors, and committed to helping startups grow and become successful and achieve their dreams. Here's our international management team, the China team and the Israel team. And our goal is to, I think right now we're at 43. We're gonna be over 50 by the end of the year. Our goal, we used the 2025 because that was the Chinese government's goal for semiconductor. And our plan was to be over 200 startups by 2025 around the world. And we're well on our way. So with that, we'd like for you individually and Samsung as a corporation to join us in driving innovation. Again, you're free to attend our meetings and receive our marketing information at no cost to you. So with that, I've finished the prepared remarks. Catherine, I hope I didn't go too fast, and I would take any questions that you may have.
No problem. If anyone has a question, please use the Q&A or chat tool. First question, Pete, how has COVID impacted the startups?
So COVID has to a certain extent hurt some of the startups. Some of the companies that were ready to close on financing, in some cases the financing was reduced or it was stopped because some of the venture capitalists have gotten scared and said, okay, you know, we need to keep whatever money we have for the companies that we've already made investments in. Clearly, we jumped on it right away. We advised them to reduce whatever costs they could and to go and get government help and to extend their runway. But several of our companies have closed rounds of funding during COVID. They continue, all of the customers continue to be very interested in engaging with solutions that can help them. And so I think, you know, one or two companies may suffer as a result, but I think overall, everybody's going to come out stronger from this. And Silicon Catalyst, we have continued to really expand our ecosystem almost exponentially. We were able to add ARM and ST during COVID as strategic partners, and we were able to add, I think, 3 or 4 companies as in-kind partners. So we just added 4 new startups to the incubator, actually 5 today. We closed another one, so it hasn't been announced yet, which puts us at 31. So has it slowed us down a little bit? Yes, but overall, the companies and Silicon Catalyst are doing pretty well during COVID.
Great. Next question, how does Silicon Catalyst find good university research to support?
Okay, so our engagements with university, clearly we have several graduates on our team from Stanford and several graduates on our team from Berkeley, and a couple of our members actually teach classes at Stanford. So Stanford was the university that we had the closest contact with. but we have now reached out. I gave a presentation last week to Imperial College of London, and now Oxford and Cambridge have asked me to present. We are going to be scheduled to present to one of the leading universities in Japan. We've presented to Cornell, MIT, Caltech, Cal Polys. And so our goal with universities is, if you have innovation and you have what students or professors or grad students or postdocs that are interested in starting a company, talk to us. We will guide you. We will try to find an advisor that has relevant experience to what you're trying to do and help you in getting started. If you're already past the point where you've decided to get started and you've incorporated, we can help you with business planning, financial planning, access to investors, and of course, everything else that our incubator does. So that's how we engage with universities. For example, tomorrow night, we're having an advisor meeting online. I think we have about 150 attendees, and a famous professor from Stanford is going to be presenting relationships between US, China, and technology today. And so we do that all the time to instruct the industry. But again, we work with universities on multiple levels. We help them, they help us. We provide lectures. I met you, Catherine, when I gave that lecture at Stanford. And they come and they present at our events, sometimes technology, sometimes business, sometimes politics, it depends. But we're there to help universities around the world. And our chairman, Rick, is leading our university program.
Thank you. Next question. Do any of the in-kind benefits provided by your partners include IP licensing?
Yes. So if we go back, let's see. Sorry, I should have taken it out of presentation mode. Okay, if you look at this slide, so ARM is providing, who would have thought that ARM would provide IP for free? But ARM is providing IP and support for free to our companies. Synopsys is providing a portion of their IP, the things that you synthesize into for free to our startups. Sci5 is providing the RISC-V core. Coventor is providing MEMS and photonics intellectual property. Certis is providing custom I/O at a discounted price and not until they don't have to pay until production. Lumerical is providing photonics IP. Intrinsix has analog IP. Silvaco has Samsung IP, but that has not yet been made available to us. So what we have is the older IP that Silvaco had for digital designs and so forth. And Lattice provides all of the IP they have through their FPGA offerings. We're in the process of adding 2 or 3 more IP in-kind partners I can't talk about yet, but we should have them close in the next month or 2.
Great, thank you. Next question. Are most of your companies working on applications, or are some still developing core technology?
Most of the companies are either finishing core technology or focused on applications today.
Okay, thank you. What is the amount you typically invest in a startup, and how much equity do you typically take?
That's a very, very good question, and it depends. So I'll give you a couple of examples. So Silicon Catalyst, as the incubator, we do not invest cash. Okay, we provide the advisory services, we provide the ecosystem, we provide the marketing, and we provide the in-kind. The in-kind on average is worth $2 to $3 million. To a certain extent, the incubator is a bit of a charity organization, right? And let me explain why I say that. If you take the level of advisor that we provide, this person from our team that will typically spend a lot more cycles than a typical advisor, plus he has the whole team to leverage for issues and questions, plus the ecosystem, and the in-kind on average is $2 to $3 million. Most seed stage companies are worth less than 10. So in theory, we should be taking 20% preferred. And what we typically ask for a seed level company is 10 to 12% common stock. Of companies that are further along, we have now opened the doors to companies that are much beyond seed. We have accepted 4 or 5 companies that were either at the beginning of Series A or had already raised Series A's. In fact, we accepted 2 startups that had raised on the order of $20 million with $90 million post-money valuations. Clearly, for that level of company, not everything that we have in kind is going to be free, okay? But a lot of it is still. And clearly, we're not going to get 10% of that company. We're going to take less. So those are the ranges. But yes, I would say that when we go through the selection of a company and then we say we would like you to join, our success rate is over 90%, right? Of the companies that say, yeah, this is acceptable to us. So I hope that answered that question without giving a specific number, because it's going to vary on where the company is in its life cycle, how much can we help them, right? And for the equity amount.
Great. Next question. What is in it for TSMC and EDA companies to provide free services? Do they get equity shares in the startups?
No, so initially, before I joined Silicon Catalyst halfway through its life. I joined 2.5 years ago. They had recruited me. I'd known some of these folks for a long time because I had run a public semiconductor company as well as a large semiconductor business, but I had also done startups and run a startup. And that's kind of unusual, right, to have someone that's done both. And I was semi-retired, so I had time on my hands. To answer that question, initially they tried to give Synopsys and TSMC, and because they were the earliest companies, equity, and it makes the chief financial officers of these companies kind of go crazy with how to deal with it. But the real benefit that Synopsys gets is, give you an example. Let me go to the, sorry. Too much animation. Okay. Our champion at Synopsys, who's the heir apparent for CEO, basically said I would have to hire 2 mid-level managers to screen, 300 plus startups. And are they going to do as good a job as my former boss and CTO Raul, who was CTO of Synopsys for 12 years? He goes, probably not. Besides, we have the whole team looking at the startups, along with key advisors, along with our strategic partners. So the benefit to them was, we're going to get companies that would probably not consider Synopsys. We're going to get them very thoroughly screened. All of the documentation and the deal has been negotiated, so it's very clean and low touch process. And then they know that companies that come from Silicon Catalyst that have a high probability of being successful in the future, being a production customer, and being successful because we help them so much, not only with advice and investment and everything else, but with the support structure that we built. So that was in it for them. TSMC is a great foundry. They traditionally have not been very good at supporting startups. And so we take that off the plate. We do the negotiation. We get the PDKs very quickly. We support the heck out of the startups. And it doesn't take a lot of time out of TSMC's hands. And they know that the companies, again, just like Synopsys, they know that the companies that they're engaging with have a high probability of being successful. And by the way, they're engaging with 10 to 20, not 300, right? So we take that out of their, off their hands. So that is why, and we've proven the model. A couple of our companies have graduated, have gotten out of the incubator, and now are production customers of both TSMC and Synopsys.